In this video, we will discuss how to get the subgroup data, which is for percentage of students scoring 60% or above. And this is going to be for ELA, and it will also be for math. All right, so this one's for subgroup data with regards to percentage of students scoring 60% or above for race, gender, ELL, and IEP. To get that data that you're going to use to complete that table, you're going to go to the dashboard of my ANet, and I am in Glen Oaks High School. And when you go to the dashboard, the next thing you want to go to is performance. So click on performance, and you will see this page. The next step you're going to take is you're going to go to school performance over time, and for the completion of this table that we are looking at, you're going to do school performance over time by course. All right, once you click on this, this page shows up. You want to make sure that you see 2021, and obviously there's only one. There's only 1 year there, 2021, either math or ELA. Let's go ahead and click on ELA. When you click on ELA, before I do that, notice the SAS here, Schedule of Assessed Standards. And when I click on ELA, notice it changed to this. So for English, this is the Schedule of Assessed Standards that shows up. We're going to keep it on all courses. So for Glen Oaks High School, the English courses are 6th grade English, 7th grade English, 8th grade English, English 1, English 2, English 3. Now, we need to click Update. So click Update because we made some changes to the drop-down. So when you click on Update, we now get this situation. All right, so let's talk about subgroup data. So to get to the subgroup data, you're going to go to Advanced. When you click on Advanced, if you look at the metric, there are two metrics up here. The metric average and the metric percent of students scoring at or above. To complete this table, you're interested in percentage of students scoring 60% or above. So go back to my ANet, and you're now going to check off this radio dial right here, this radio button. When you click on this, you now see this. So move that blue button all the way to the right until you get to 60%. You must get to 60%. 60% is what you want. So now we're at 60%. Okay, now for the network, I am not interested in comparing my school to any other school. So I'm just going to go ahead and make sure all of this is blank. So there's something in Louisiana right here. There's a little dash. So what I'm going to do is just clear everything. So there are quite a few schools in quite a few states here listed. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on all and then unclick, and now I don't have to worry about network. All right, so now we're going to go to school demographics. Now this is where you will look at the subgroup. So let's go ahead first of all and deal with race first. So I'm going to complete this table. We have to do race as well. See race, gender, ELL, IEP for both interim 1 and interim 2. So go back and let's start with the race being Black or African American. Make sure that all this other information is on all. You're interested in one subgroup at a time for this report. Only one subgroup at a time. So make sure gender says all. Make sure free reduced lunch says all. Make sure English language learning says all. And students supported by IEP says all. So we checked off Black or American, African American. Scroll at the bottom. Don't worry about network. We didn't deal with network, but you got to update. So when I update, notice what happens. Okay, so what we have here is this. So to complete this table, you're looking at it in terms of school-wide. Okay, school-wide. So that means you're only interested in these bar graphs right here. So you see it says interim 1 right here, interim 2, and then the average. The average that you see here is the average of all the students that are in interim 1 for this bar graph, and all of the students that are in interim 2 for this bar graph. And so that's what this average is. Okay, so this 3% for interim 1 means this. So remember, let me see if I can get to it from here. So remember, we're interested in the percentage of students scoring 60% or above, right? So this 3% means this. This 3% means this. The percentage of all African Americans at Glen Oaks High School that took interim 1, the percentage of all of those students that scored 60% above is 3%. So only 3% of the African Americans from 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, English 1, English 2, English 3, 3% of all of those students taking the English test, English interim 1, only 3% scored 60% or above. For interim 2, that 8% means this. And remember, the window is still open, so this could change for Glen Oaks High School interim 2. But that 8% means this. 8% of all African Americans that took 6th grade English, 7th grade English, 8th grade English, English 1, English 2, English 3, 8% scored 60% or above. So that's what that means. So that 3% you see here, that 8% you see here. Okay, now for this 60%, I also have to mention this. 60%, the subgroup data for the 60% does not matter whether it's 5 students or more, or less than 5 students, as it did with average in the previous table that you had to complete. ANet says that this is a bug. So, but right now, all of this data will include any courses, I should say, in which there are fewer than 5 students. Okay, so 6th grade, so anything that breaks that even further, and this would be more for a school level to look at. So in 6th grade, English, African Americans, 10%, see what it has right here? 10% of the of African Americans in 6th grade English scored 60% or above. 0% of 7th grade African Americans at Glen Oaks High School at this point, remember we're still in this open window, at this point 0% scored 60% or above. This 7% right here means for 8th grade English, 7% of the African Americans scored 60% or above. Now notice there's a little dash right here. That means that as of right now, there are no students, no African Americans, I should say, no African Americans that took English 1 yet. All right, so no students, no African Americans in English 1 has taken the English 1 interim 2. That's what that means. All right, so again, that English 1 right here, that dash means that at this point, there are no students, no African American students that have taken the English 1 assessment. So that's what that means. Interim 1 for English 1, 3% of the African Americans in English 1 scored 60% or higher. For English 2, for interim 2, English 2, 9% of African Americans in English 2 scored 60% or higher. For interim 1, it was 2%. All right, so that's what that means. So you have your overall school information, and then you have it broken down by grade level. So again, the data here is not restricted to only 5 students or more in a subgroup. And again, though, ANet did say that that was a bug in their system. Okay, so let's go to another, well, let's go ahead and complete that table for this point. So for this table, for race, for African American, you're going to say interim 1, it was 3%, and interim 2, it was 8%. So interim 1, it was 2%, and African American, it was 8%. All right, now in English, some of the standards do go from interim to interim because of the way that ELA is. So from interim 1 to interim 2, there's a 5% increase there. So that's a good increase. We would still like in more than 8% of our students scoring 60% or higher, and we can work with that for interim 3 and for the LEAP test. But at this point, this is what we have. So we do see an improvement. Okay, so let's go to another race. This time I want to show you something with regards to Asians. I'm going to go to Asian, and I'm going to go to Update, and this is what I see. Okay, so notice there is no 6th grade listed, no 7th grade English listed, no 8th grade English listed, no English 1, and no English 3, right? So of all the courses, all of the English courses at Glen Oaks High School, in terms of the subgroup Asian, this is the only course, especially in interim 1. You see interim 1? For interim 1, all of the Asian students were in English 2. That's what that says, interim 1, because we're done with interim 1, right? Interim 1's done. So in interim 1, all of the Asian students were in English 2 class. They were not in any other class. So for interim 2, you see that 0%. Now we are still in the window of testing, so it could be that not all of the Asian students have completed interim 2, English 2. But at this point, this is what this means. So you see 0% for interim 1, 0% for interim 2. So right now, for interim 1, 0%. There were not any Asian student in English 2 that scored 60% or higher. For interim 2, there were not any at this point, because we're still in the middle of testing for interim 2. Interim 2, there were no Asian student in English 2 that scored 60% or higher. So that's what that means. So when you go to the table, and you're going to put Asian, you're going to actually put 0%, because that's what it says, 0%. And for interim 2, if it stays at 0%, you'll still say 0%. So 0%. Okay? And then you do the same thing. You keep on doing the same thing. So let's go to advanced filter. You would do the same thing with Hispanic Latino. Go through and do update, and this is what you see. So the subgroup Hispanic Latino were in grades 6 English, were in 7th grade English, were in English 1, English 2, but there were none in English 3. So remember, the 60% or higher, there's a bug in ANet system. So the 60% or higher, it does not matter whether the subgroup is less than 5 or 5 or more. It does not matter. It is included. So since there's no English 3, then that's what that means. There were no Hispanic or Latino that took interim 1, because interim's done, and at this point have not taken interim 2. So we don't have any students in those classes. So if you look across the board, 0% all across the board. So for our table, though, you see 0% interim 1, 0% interim 2. So you can go to our table, and for Hispanic, Latino, you're going to say 0%. And for interim 2, Hispanic, Latino, you're going to say 0%. Okay? And then you keep on going. So you would do the same thing. You would do the same thing for, and I'm not going to do it here, but you would do the same thing for the subgroup white. And based on whether your executive director wants you to include American Indian or Alaska Native, and the other subgroup Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander, you would, if that was the case, you would include those as well. Okay? So let's go to the other subgroup. So if you look at the table, you also have to do gender. And I'm not going to do all of those because once I do a few, you now know how to do the rest. But I just wanted to explain what those percentages means here in terms of 60% or higher. So if you go to gender now remember, as we mentioned in a previous video, you need to make sure you go back to race and you click on all. We're only interested in one demographic at a time. So now I'm interested in gender. So let's go to female. And so keep everything else as all. Scroll down and make sure it's still, yes, I see 60% or above. Okay, scroll down, update, and this is what we have. So remember, this was female. So all of the females at Glen Oaks High School. So interim 1, 5%, interim 2, 15%. So that's a big increase for 60% or higher. So interim 1, since interim 1's done, we're done with interim 1, right? So that means that for interim 1, 5% of all the female students that took interim 1 scored 60% or higher. For interim 2, although we're still not through the end of the window, because you do see some little dashes here. So right now, no student in 7th grade, no female in 7th grade took, in 7th grade English, took the interim 2 English test, and none in English 1 took the English 1 interim 2 test. And you know there are some females in each of those classes. So that's what that means. Okay, but 15% means this. Right now, and I expect that to increase since not all the students have completed the test, 15% of all the females at Glen Oaks High School that took interim 2 scored 60% or higher. So a big increase, 5% to 15%, and since not all the students have taken interim 2, this number should increase. Okay, and then you have the average. So the average here, remember, is just all the students, remember the average of all the students in interim 1 and all the students in interim 2. All right. Okay, so in our table then, you're going to put female. Oops. And then you're going to put the percentage, and the percentage was 5%, the other one's 15%. So you're going to say 5%. And the other one is 15%, right? And then you would do the same thing for male, right? And then you would do the same thing for male here. Okay. All right. Then let's go to ELL. So in ELL, when you go to advanced filters, scroll down. So when I go to English language learning, so I'm going to click on EL, but remember I got to go back and change gender because it defaulted to that because that was the last demographic I used. So click on all. So you have ELL and you have non-ELL. So I need to know something about ELL and then non-ELL, right? And then over here as well, ELL and then non-ELL. So for ELL, I'm going to go here and scroll down and update. Okay, so for ELL, remember for that 60% or above, the rule of 5% or more being needed does not apply here because in ANet says that that's a bug. So that rule of specific number and subgroup data does not appear. So since that's the case, you see you don't see anything for 8th grade and you don't see anything for English 3. What that means is this: there are no ELL students in 8th grade. There are no ELL students in English 3. Okay, so that's what that means. But for our situation, we are interested in interim 1, interim 2. So 0%, 0%, so you know what that means, right? So that means that for interim 1, 0% of all of the ELL students that took English interim 1, 0% scored 60% or higher. Same thing for interim 2. So you're going to say 60. So you're going to say 0%. Oops, sorry. You're going to say 0% and 0%, right? Okay. All right, so now we're going to go to non-ELL. So you can click on Advanced Filter, scroll down, do non-ELL. So students that are not ELL, and update, and you have data for each grade level because you would assume that at least one student in every grade level was not an ELL student, right? Okay, so 3% for interim 1, 9% for interim 2. So 3% of non-ELL learners that took English interim 1 scored 60% or higher. 9% for interim 2, 9% of all non-ELL learners at Glen Oaks High School taking English interim 2 scored 60% or higher. All right, and altogether, the average from both, if you include interim 1 and interim 2 together, the average was 3%. So 3%, at this point, 3% of the students, of non-ELL students, taking English interim test scored 60% or higher. So here, you're going to say, and I forgot already what it was, 3% and 9%. So there is an increase. So 3% and 9%. Oops. 9%. And then you would do the same thing for IEP. So you go and you do the same thing for IEP. But remember, when you do students supported by IEPs, just make sure you go back here and you click on all. Because if you don't, you're saying this: what percentage of non-EAL students who also are supported by IEPs scored 60% or higher? All right, so that's what would happen if you left it like this. So you want to say all here, and then only the subgroup students supported by IEPs. So then you're going to say supported by IEP, not supported by IEP. All right, and then you're going to click the, and then you're just going to find the percentage. Let me paste this. Okay, and that's what you do. So if you, I'm just going to do one of them. So students supported by IEPs, click update, and that's what you see. So 0%, 0%, and it breaks it down even further. Again, remember the little dash right here for interim 2 means at this point, no student in English 1 that are supported by an IEP have taken the English 1 interim 2 test yet. That's what that means. Same thing for English 3. But it says 0 and 0. So So you're going to have 0% and, oops, 0%, and the same thing here, 0%. And then you continue with the not supported by IEPs. Now notice it did run into these instructions right here, so just go ahead and move that up a little, and then you could probably move that down a little if you have to. Okay? All right, and so that's how you would complete both the ELA, and you do the same thing with math. And the math, percentage of students scoring 60% or above, subgroup data. So it's ELA, we did ELA, but you would do the same thing for math. Just make sure when you go to the math, you click on math, and remember, what else do you have to do? You have to update. So you must update. And then you go through your filters. Also remember, make sure this says 60%, and I'm not interested in networks, so make sure you turn off all of the networks, all of the schools in the network. And then you go like we did before. Okay? All right, have fun. If you have any questions, let us know.